Okay. So more people, yay. Hi, everybody. So I had an incredible PowerPoint presentation all ready for you. And today was one of those days, nothing went right and working from home and everything exploded. So there's no PowerPoint. So we're just going to wing this. But my name is Michelle Holleman. I own Life Healing Counseling here in Charlotte. My daughter goes to TrinityPrep, which I love. I'm a clinical addiction specialist. I'm also a sex addictions therapist, a trauma specialist. I practice EMDR, and I treat tweens and teens and adults and couples. So as I said, my PowerPoint presentation exploded and is gone. I did, however, send to Sarah, and Mr. Corwin has them, a couple of handouts that they can provide to you after this that I think will be a little helpful, and I'll explain a little more about those as the presentation goes along. So I'm here to talk to you today about boundaries. And boundaries, especially during this time, how we keep them, how we establish them, and how we maintain them during this period. And moving forward during this period. So there are different kinds of boundaries. You know, there are physical boundaries, there are emotional boundaries, mental health boundaries. And there's some general rules about boundaries that I kind of like to cover with everybody, just kind of getting started. One of my favorite rules about boundaries that I think that is the hardest for everybody to embrace is the simplest. It's that no is a complete sentence. No is a wonderful word. It's 2 letters. You don't have to explain no to anybody. It's great to try out. I have my tween and teen clients in group practice saying no in a little game we call the no game. One of them will walk up and say, hey, do you want to do this? And they say no. And they're not allowed to say anything else, just no. And it's hard because we want to always explain ourselves, and we want to give reasons, and we want to make excuses. And if you try it with your family and friends and loved ones and your kids, you'll find yourself wanting to explain the reasons, and you don't need to. It's pretty simple, just no. So that's my favorite rule. Another rule is that we can set boundaries and be kind. Setting a boundary doesn't mean that we're mean. It doesn't mean that we are being cruel. It just means that we are putting a line in between us and what's making us not agree with something. So it's just being firm about where your level of comfort is. And you don't ever have to feel like you're not being kind about it, as long as you are kind about it. So we don't ever have to yell at anybody. We don't ever have to be aggressive. We can simply say, that's not okay with me. That's being very kind and very direct. The third rule I really like is an oxymoron. It's being healthy selfish. And practicing healthy selfishness is hard for most people. Being healthy selfish means sometimes we have to put ourselves first. And especially as parents and teachers, we often want to give and give and give of ourselves. And it's hard to take a step back and say, maybe I need to take care of myself first. It's that rule about putting on your oxygen mask first on the airplane, because we can't pour from an empty cup. And especially during this time, what I'm seeing the most, I'm not in my office, so I can't say in my office, but what I'm seeing most in teletherapy is that parents especially are trying to pour from an empty cup. We're giving and giving and giving, making sure everybody else is okay, and then we almost have nothing left to take care of ourselves. So setting that boundary is something that's really important, and we're going to talk about that today. So physical boundaries, we're all really aware of how that's happened, right? We've got the social distancing. We're all staying 6 feet apart. We're wearing masks. We're wearing gloves. Businesses are closing. There are new rules in stores. Everyone's sheltering in place. And it's been really strange to adapt and learn all these new physical boundaries. And we know why. We can intellectually understand it's for, the safety of our first responders and our hospital workers and the grocery store workers and doctors and nurses and janitors and pharmacists and all the thousands of wonderful people who are risking their own lives so we can all be safe. And if any of you are watching, thank you. We appreciate you. And it feels very unnatural. We are wired to connect with each other. We're all wired to connect, even physically. So I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but even when I watch TV and movies, I find myself almost cringing now when people are hugging in commercials or on TV. I'm kind of getting uncomfortable watching that because I'm going, oh no, they're not 6 feet apart. It's getting awkward for me. And my whole perception of physical contact is starting to change, which bothers me a lot because it's difficult. We can't, touch the people we love. We can't visit our friends. And we have really valid feelings about this that can feel confusing. I know I have felt a lot of anger, confusion. There's some denial going on, like maybe it'll be okay this one time. There's frustration, and there's a lot of grief around this. And all this is very normal. Life is right now on hold. And that's exactly what it is. It's on hold. And we all feel a bit on hold. And so that's valid. So just to normalize it for everybody, yeah, we're on hold, and that's okay to feel like frustrated about that. So because most of us, especially teachers, most parents, are working from home, we've had to adjust a lot. All the teachers, of course, have had to suddenly become experts on how to develop online lesson plans. And you guys are doing an amazing, incredible job. I don't even understand how you did that. We're all having to set up a workspace, learn how to manage people, and run Zoom meetings. And we're doing all this while having to juggle childcare and children's schoolings, work done, and taking care of ourselves and our family. And almost everybody I know is sharing how very challenging it is. And how do we master this and keep our kids motivated to work and engaged and do it so quickly? And our reaction to what's happening in our communities and in the world, and trying to manage the anxiety of that while trying to do all these other things that we've never had to do before, and grieving the loss of the remainder of the school year, which people were just talking about, the fun activities we had planned, vacations, simply being able to connect with one another is a very big loss for us. So one of the things that we're going to talk about later is grief. One way we can manage this new boundary and this new grief is to shift our expectations, which most people by now are starting to do, but it's still very difficult. It's really easy and tempting to compare our lives to how it was before. Like working online might be harder, and juggling everybody's schedules may be a little more complicated. Running out for a quick errand may have been so much easier before, but this type of mindset is really almost trapping us in this grass is greener approach, even though it feels true. But it could be more helpful to reframe the way our experiences are right now as not a better or worse, but just different. So instead of comparing our circumstances to what we're going through right now as what we were doing a few months ago, just recognizing the uniqueness of what we're going through and giving ourselves space to figure out what our new normal is, instead of pressuring ourselves to feel and act the exact same way we did before COVID-19. Allowing yourself the space to not try to be the normal we were, embracing our new normal and accepting that we aren't going to act the same way. We're not going to be the same person, and that's okay. It's a part of lowering some boundaries, relaxing some of our boundaries. We aren't going to look the same way. We can't get haircuts. You know, we're not able to even exercise the same way. We can't go to gyms. You know, people aren't getting manicures. All the physical things we used to do to take care of ourselves has changed. There are a lot of different things that are happening in our world that are changing, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. So we have to start accepting that we have a new normal and behaving that way and accepting it a little bit, which is a really hard thing to do. And it's one reason we're feeling so much anxiety. So how do we start to reframe our experience and start to work through this as not better or worse, but just different? So before I start telling you how to do this with setting boundaries, I really want to make sure everybody understands that everything I'm telling you, even if you've heard it before, these things are always an if you can scenario. I really want to recognize that everyone is doing the absolute best they can right now. So I don't want anyone to feel like I'm putting any more pressure on anybody. Everybody's doing the best they can today, and that is absolutely good enough. Being present and being right where you are right now is okay. Please don't feel like you have to make a list of everything I'm saying and go out and do it. Absolutely not true. One thing that is really helpful about being in this situation is being present. Being present and accepting time as a boundary is a recovery concept. People who live with addictions live in recovery when they aren't living in addiction. And there's a concept that probably most of you have heard of called taking things one day at a time. It's something that is actually, I work with a lot of addicted clients, and this is something that's actually really helped me just getting through today. If I can get through just today, I'll worry about tomorrow. Because sometimes I feel so overwhelmed thinking about all the things I have to do and what's coming up tomorrow that it is overwhelming, and it creates an immense amount of anxiety. So being really present and just saying, for today, this is what I can do. And for today, this is what today is going to look like. And maybe tomorrow will just be different. For example, today, my PowerPoint presentation blew up. Okay. Today, I'm going to wing this presentation. Okay. Tomorrow, maybe I'll have a different experience. I hope so. But today, I'm going to do the best I can with this. And that's all anybody can really expect of me, because I'm a human being and I'm not perfect. And that's good. When we're working from home, which everybody, to normalize that, everyone's having trouble with this. Something that everyone struggled with already, having that work-life balance, and now this is a whole new balance. Now we're balancing work-life within one space. There was a really good physical boundary before. There was a building we could go to for school or work, and then we would come home and have the home life, and that's gone. So when you're teaching at school or working in the office, you would come back and then you'd have a separate personal life. And now everything's in one place. So time, again, is a really important way to manage boundaries. And I'm sure you've all heard this before, but setting office hours for yourself or work hours for yourself is really important. It's not always going to work, and it's not always going to be perfect, and that's okay. But saying my office hours are going to be 9 to 3, and then at 3 o'clock, shutting down your email, shutting down your computer the rest of the day, and that's very idealistic. I don't really know many people who can really do that all the time. Maybe you have to chop it up into different blocks. Maybe you have a 9 to 11 block and then an 11 to 2 or 12 to 2 block. However you can work your day, designating certain work times versus personal time, whatever works for you and your family is what's going to work best for you, and allowing yourself to have that space to make it work for you and your family. trying not to say, well, I'm going to work from 9 to 5. I really don't know of many people right now who are able to say, I'm absolutely working for 9 to 5, and this is working for us perfectly. Everybody has, children at home. If you have little kids at home, that's a huge challenge. So accepting the new normal, that we're going to have to figure out a different system, maybe we set some time boundaries with work. And that's probably going to be the best way for the family to kind of redefine their day. Obviously, having a workspace that's out of the way for when you spend most of your time. You don't want to work in your bed. That's not going to provide kind of that escape for you when it's time to go to bed. I have a colleague who I love. Her new office is in her half bath. She literally took a small desk, put it over the toilet, got a little chair, and she is working in her bathroom. She closes the door to that little bathroom, and she's just seeing clients, telehealth in the bathroom. She sent a picture, it's really cute. I sent Sarah and Mr. Corwin a sign that is really good, and it's a sign that she has on her door that says there are different levels that you can use to mark. It says it's okay to knock. It's okay to knock and come in and say a quick hi because people know you exist. It is okay for you to knock, but don't come in because I'm in a meeting. If you knock on this door, you better be bleeding or on fire. If you knock on this door, you will be bleeding or on fire. It's really a good sign. It's funny, but it's pretty direct. And you can kind of use a clothespin or a Post-it or something to mark where you are in your day so that your kids are really clear. Don't bother me, or it's okay and I can help you. And I think that's really important because telling your kids, don't bother me, they're probably going to bother you, especially if they're young. So having a really direct way of communicating with them, I mean, obviously if they can read, saying, this is absolutely a meeting you cannot interrupt. This is a meeting that, my whole career hinges on. That's a meeting I don't want my kids barging in on. Versus a meeting where I'm seeing a client that knows that I'm a mother versus a client that I don't want to know that I'm a mother because they're different from me, different clients. It's okay. And letting them know that. You can come in and say a quick hi and what do you need? So things are a little different, but setting those boundaries with children for your workspace can really help too. And it keeps stress and burnout way down. Okay, so we have to talk about online boundaries. Lots of people are having issues with online boundaries. And one thing I specialize in is internet and gaming stuff. So online boundaries with other people in social media. And this is for people who, especially to start with, like for dating people, teens, if people are dating or, young adults, set boundaries on how you want to communicate with your partners and your friends and let them know very clearly if they're crossing a boundary. It's okay for you to say to them, I don't like that you said that. I don't like that you posted that. That's not okay with me. That's a good thing. It's the same thing of saying no, which is a complete sentence. Something that's happening in our communities is abuse is up, all kinds of abuse. So please remember, healthy relationships are always based on trust. And that means that partners shouldn't feel the need to look through other people's social media or demand passwords. So if that kind of thing is happening, you may want to talk with somebody about it. It's also not okay for someone to demand to know where you are. So if your teen is, dating someone and they're communicating online and the other person's demanding to know where they are, that's not okay. It's always okay to turn off your phone and put it away. You have the right to be alone and spend time with family and friends without having to respond to people immediately. You do not have to answer just because someone wants you to. For everybody, it's really important to think about what you post on social media. We're spending more and more time on social media. We are also on Zoom calls, and things are a little more relaxed. People are dressed down in Zoom meetings for work, and people have kind of relaxed on social media. So a lot of people are getting in trouble at work because they're making an association that work friends are friends, and work friends are not always friends. So please check your privacy settings, set those boundaries very clearly, make sure those privacy settings are where you want them. And it's really a good idea to avoid posting political personal details on any business pages, and maybe even on your personal pages, including commenting or liking certain things that could be controversial. Just because people are spending more time on social media, which means they're probably searching more things out, and you want to protect yourself during this time. I've had some people get into some trouble with their bosses and with coworkers, and people are more bored. They have more time on their hands. So it's just kind of a cautionary tale. Just kind of hold that boundary. Don't do anything you wouldn't have done before COVID. Always think twice before sending a photo or texting a photo. Once it's out there forever, even if you think it disappears. Block is always your friend. Block is always, always your friend. There's also, for parents, your kids, and kids, this is for you too, you never have to share or receive anything that's inappropriate or makes you uncomfortable. If someone is ever sending you content you don't want to receive, if it's text messages or images or videos, if you can do so safely, let them know you don't want that. And parents, this is something you should be talking to your kids about. That's a whole other presentation. Doug knows what I'm talking about. But block is your friend during this time. If somebody makes you upset or uncomfortable, please block them. It's the greatest tool. It's the greatest boundary you have on social media. Okay, couples. Here's how not to kill each other during this. It's hard to be with each other 24/7. It's hard. People are having trouble, understandably. Some people are saying they're getting along so much better and everything's just perfect and this is just reigniting their relationship. That's true for a lot of people. But if there were underlying problems before, they're probably being magnified. And I really don't know any couple who has a perfect relationship. So some things are going to be magnified. It's pretty normal. So here's how not to fall into that. Please don't wait for your partner to tell you that they need space. Give them some space. Give yourself some space. Everybody needs space. One thing that's really worked well that I've discovered is having a kind of regular check-in at the beginning of the day, even if it's like when you're brushing your teeth or whatever, in the bathroom or whatever. Having a time where you, as a couple, kind of connect to know what the kind of daily plan is. So my daily plan today was, look, I have clients from 9 to 1, and then I have a break until 3, but I'm going to be preparing for a presentation that I have to do at 7, and I'm going to need everybody to get off the Wi-Fi so that the Zoom is going to work, and I want you to manage the dogs. And then my husband said to me, or you could just go to your office, and then we don't have to worry about any of that. So he set a boundary with me. He's like, or you could just like get out of the house, and then we don't have to deal with all the dogs and the Wi-Fi, and you can be alone. So he set that really good boundary with me, and I listened. But we kind of checked in with each other, and he knew kind of that my day was really crazy and busy, and knew to give me some space. That works for us. Letting your partner know, I have a crazy busy day. I'm not going to be able to sit here and kind of pick up the slack today. I'm really going to need some extra support today. I have a really important presentation for work. I have a really, like a ton of stuff to do. If I have a client as a therapist that I know is really going to drain me and I'm going to need some extra time to kind of decompress after that, I let my husband know. I say, today's going to be rough. I'm going to need some time at 3 o'clock where I just need to be alone and quiet and go for a walk. Please don't ask me to start helping you clean or garden or something. I need to be by myself. But that communication is so important, and it's setting a boundary with him. It's saying, I don't want to be bothered. It's telling him, I need time alone. And that's so important to communicate to each other. Demonstrate to each other that you don't need to be constantly entertained by each other. It's not supposed to be a 24/7 date. You guys have your own things going on. He can be gardening while I watch my Bravo shows. That's perfectly acceptable. We don't always have to be doing the same thing. I don't love gardening. Actually don't like gardening at all. It's his thing. He doesn't like my Bravo shows. Perfect. We can have time alone, separate. Taking that time apart is so important. Doing things that you like to do separately is really important. It's also important to plan a date, and everybody keeps saying this, like plan romantic time, plan a date. You know, at the end of the day, when we're done with school and work and dinner and cleaning and wiping down our homes and disinfecting, I don't know who feels like a date, but my date was we ate Ben and Jerry's on our porch. That was the date. It was great. We both ate a pint of ice cream. That worked. That's all it needs to be. If it's watching, you know, a TV show together, count that. Please don't think you have to make some elaborate thing that you see on, you know, someone's Instagram. If your neighbors want to go all out and order an amazing Italian meal to be delivered and set out the china and put out candles, that's amazing. Good for them. I like to take a shower and watch, you know, live PD. That works for me. So again, what is the new normal? That's our new normal. Our new normal looks a lot different than it did. And it's what I can manage today. So there's my boundary. I'm going to really just kind of do what I can and allow myself to have that space for it to be okay. And that's our date. You know, maybe your date isn't even with your partner. Maybe you miss your best friend. So maybe your date is FaceTiming with your besties and having a glass of wine on like a group Zoom call. That may be what you need to fill up your cup. And maybe your partner's, you know, wants to do the same thing with his buddies, and that's what you want your date night to be. Great. It's okay to do what works for you. So setting boundaries with other loved ones that live in the area, or maybe they don't. We all miss each other. We miss our grandparents, we miss our parents, we miss our aunts and our uncles and our cousins. And they want to see the kids. They miss them. And sometimes we really don't have the time and energy to organize a group Zoom call, or with Easter just happened and Passover, I had a lot of kind of family calls happening, and my clients were really overwhelmed. They just didn't have it in them. They were coming in going, I'm so stressed, I have to get the kids all dressed up to do this Easter family call. I don't know why you feel like you have to do that. Leave them in their pajamas and let them wave and say Happy Easter. That's perfect. All the people just want to say is they just want to see that you're doing great and you're there. They don't need to look perfect. You can also say no. Again, no, I can't come over. I'm sorry. No, I can't drive over to see you. The kids and I can't FaceTime right now, and I can't talk right now. And I know you're having a tough time and miss the kids, but let's schedule it for another time. Maybe tomorrow will work better. And it's okay to say those things. Again, saying no, but being kind about it and setting a new boundary. That's okay. As far as Zoom calls go, if we're doing Zoom calls at work all day, it's okay to use mute and the video mute, which we all probably by now know how to do, to stand and stretch. That's a great thing. I have this little camera cover that you can buy on Amazon for like $2 or $3. And I just have it, it's a little sticky thing, and then I just like kind of slide it over my camera for anything if I don't want people to see what I'm doing. It's a great boundary that I have to make sure that I don't accidentally stand up and people see that I'm wearing Christmas pants. I really don't care at this point, but at the same time, sometimes there are people that you don't want to know that you have in your Christmas pajamas. So for Zoom calls, I recommend using the mute and the video mute or getting one of these camera covers. Because sometimes we want to be comfortable, but we also want to retain some privacy. Okay, so that's loved ones and work. Parents, okay, here we go. All right, parents of teenagers, your teen is rebelling, right, against all the boundaries and rules. And I'm a parent of teenagers, and I'm going to be completely transparent and say that I am not 100% great at practicing what I am preaching. Again, doing my best. But I'm going to say it is critical they have some structure right now. Everything about their routine has changed, but they need to know that they still have boundaries and that most of the rules are staying the same. One thing that is important is loosening some rules about how much time is spent on social media. Here's why. Kids are wired to connect just like we are. As one punishment, and this is coming from a mom who treats internet addiction and gaming addiction, but compensating by taking away their only connection right now can be very, very, I don't want to use the word harmful, but it can really hurt. That's their connection to their friends. So if we're taking away their only connection to their friends for a long period of time, it could affect them a lot, right? They still need to socialize. So encouraging them to be creative and how to interact with their friends socially, really the only way we have left is online right now, right? We can wave to neighbors and stuff like that, but if they don't have their friends as neighbors, that's really hard to do. There's nothing wrong with saying for 2 days, I'm taking away your social media, but for 2 weeks right now, that's tough. So loosening some rules. Before COVID, taking away social media as a punishment for 2 weeks, no problem. Now it's a little different. So again, the new normal is very different. The other thing for parents, please stop trying to get it all done with school. I have never heard so many people say how completely overwhelmed by trying to figure out how to structure a school day. Thank goodness for TrinityPrep teachers, because I would probably not have any hair left if they weren't telling me it's okay, it's okay. None of us are teachers, and we don't know how to do this. We especially don't know how to do this in a pandemic and while we're trying to work. So we're doing, again, the best we can. Being told by teachers that just do 1 hour, just do 2 hours, it's the most freeing, the best thing I've ever heard. And when I can tell my clients, look, my kids' teachers have said, do 1 hour or 2 hours and that's enough, you can see the anxiety completely drain off their faces, because they're being handed packets this thick to do for the week. And it's not because teachers actually expect them to do that. It's just because teachers are also trying to figure out, how do we teach? They weren't prepared to, how do I teach? I hand out packets because that's how I'm going to teach my kids. So please stop trying to get it all done. And please just, it's more important for us to connect with our kids than for them to get all their work done perfectly. I had a conversation with one of my clients who was having a complete meltdown about young kids, and they had a science project due. And I said, what's the science project on? Weather. Perfect. My idea for her was to take them outside, lie on a blanket, look at clouds, talk about clouds, talk about weather, have this great conversation, spend some time talking about clouds, and that's your project. And then they write a little paragraph about what they learned. That's it. She felt completely different afterwards. It's more important for us to connect with our children than for them to learn right now that everything is perfect and everything about science that they'll ever know. So we have to talk about them keeping a schedule. Yes, it's important. Building in breaks. Yes, we all know this, it's important. But setting boundaries with them, if they are struggling, if they are feeling like they have to do this perfectly, if they are feeling like I have to get all this work done, our kids don't know how to do this online either. And a lot of them are trying to do this perfectly, and they are stressing themselves out as well. They need to relax. They need to exercise. They need to have breaks. They need to socialize. So allow them to relax those boundaries so that the entire family can stop having this level of anxiety, this overwhelming level. Okay, so the last thing is that one thing I sent Doug and Sarah is, Mr. Corwin and Sarah, is a thing called a time capsule. And it's a COVID time capsule. One thing that's really important that helps our kids is that a lot of people aren't talking to their kids about how they're feeling right now during this period, during the COVID epidemic and the pandemic. So there's a time capsule that was put together by another therapist that I came across, genius therapist, and I've shared it. And it's also on my professional Facebook page on Life Healing. And it is a way to get them to start recording their emotions and their feelings and what their memories are and how they're reacting and how they're interacting with each other and their handprints. So it's basically like they put together a time capsule, but the real motivation behind it is to help you guys as parents start a dialogue with them. It's to help you guys kind of jumpstart this dialogue. Like, what does this feel like for you? What are you guys going through? And some of them won't want to talk, and that's okay too. But it can be done with little kids. It can be done with big kids. You guys can do it if you want. And I think that this is a time in history we're always probably going to remember. So it's something to keep. I'm going to have my family do it as well. But it's a really unique kind of way to spark that conversation. And nothing right now is more important than talking about what we're going through. If we're going to bottle it all up, that's when we kind of get into trouble with our emotions. So I encourage you for 10 minutes, let them sit down and just vent and don't say anything. Just listen, encourage, and empathize, and use phrases like, I'm sorry you're going through this. This must be difficult. And let them have a chance to just talk and be their advocate. When those 10 minutes are up, you can tell them what you think, but it's really important to loosen those boundaries of setting those rules right now. Really try to empathize with what they're going through. So right now, we're all grieving, and we need to be allowed to experience that. We are all going through all the feelings, all the stages of grief, the denial. Maybe this will be over in, April. Maybe this will be over, maybe this will be over in a couple of weeks. Oh, it's going to be over tomorrow. maybe it won't be so bad. We're going through the anger, the bargaining. Some of us are going through the depression, and some of us have already moved into acceptance. And we're going through all of them all the time, which is what I promised Ms. Innes I was going to talk about. One reason a lot of us are feeling so confused, and some of us are feeling almost like there are days where I feel like we're kind of going crazy. We're grieving things like seniors are grieving the loss of a prom, of graduation, of sports they're not going to get to finish. Parents too. I have a senior as well in CMS. So there's not a prom, there's not graduation, we're not finishing the school year. College classes, she just called me, it's all online. She's devastated. She was so excited about college. These things aren't happening. It's devastating. And, I went through the denial. Oh no, it'll happen. Now I'm angry. Now I'm bargaining. Maybe it will. Maybe if just this happens. I'm trying to move into acceptance, and I'm moving between all these. And there's a reason we're kind of moving through all these, and we have to allow ourselves to grieve, and we have to grieve with our kids and allow them to go through these as well, and not try to tell them, oh, everything's fine. Everything's fine. You'll be okay. It'll be fine, because we're in reality, and it's okay to feel these feelings. As far as mental health goes, real quick, I know everybody's heard this, but please turn off the news or limit it to, watching it once a day. I have a client, when I said watch it once a day, she watched one podcast, listened to one radio show, watched one TV, and then one internet thing. So she was watching it like all day. Please don't do that. Just, half-hour a day news. It's enough, believe me. And please don't engage in arguments, either online or in real life. Politics, science, whatever you believe is fine. Peace of mind comes from not wanting to change others. No one has ever changed someone's mind by arguing that online, ever. No one's ever responded to somebody in a comment and, oh, I believe you now. It's not worth it. You'll get yourself worked up. It's just a mental health thing. Block is your friend. Please also practice good self-care. Self-care does not mean you need to go to a spa or have a bubble bath. Self-care can be as simple as taking a shower. It can be saying no. It can be telling somebody, I'm not okay today. Getting a hug. It can be eating. Sometimes just remembering to eat. Taking a nap, and sometimes it's just having a really good cry. Crying, I think, is underrated. I think that, especially now, we get we're thinking we have to be strong all the time, and it's okay to not have to be strong. So you're allowed to do that. So really briefly, I told Ms. Innes I would explain why we're feeling confused. It's a really quick kind of, because I'm a bit of a neuroscience nerd. So briefly, because I do trauma, there's a reason that we're all feeling so up and down and up and down. And a friend asked me to explain, for a way to explain to her loved ones why we all feel like, sometimes we're going insane and our moods are shifting, and we're grumpy, and then we're angry, and then we're happy, and then we're crying. And I hope I'm not just the only one who's gone through this. I hope other people are going through this with me, and I don't sound like I'm crazy. But these rapid mood shifts can make us feel like we are, they're really confusing, and they can be disorienting and very, make us feel like there's something wrong with us, and there's not. The reason we're feeling this way is because of neuroscience. So when we are experiencing this pandemic, when you experience something like this pandemic, it kicks in it kicks in your limbic system, which is the part of your brain that deals with survival. And your limbic system floods your brain and your nervous system with a ton of hormones, like this giant cocktail of hormones. A pandemic doesn't register in your memory, so because it's constantly being felt all the time. A trauma would do the same thing, but then a trauma happens, you remember it, and it's over. This is a constant trauma. We're constantly being inundated with the same stuff over and over all day long. So it never ends. So your survival brain doesn't know whether you're going to fight or freeze or flee, which are 3 trauma responses. So your brain is cycling through all these responses all the time. Fight might be anger and anxiety, or you might feel extra energy. Freeze might feel like depression or sadness or numbing out. And flee might feel like almost manic, like you're overly cleaning or you're shopping or you're exercising, overexcitement or anger. And you might feel a combination of all these things. So our brain is constantly gathering all this new information, even subconsciously. So you're always cycling through and trying to decide whether you're going to fight or freeze or flee. We can manage all these responses of survival by practicing our healthy boundaries through mindfulness, yoga, meditation, and anything that calms and focuses our minds and emotionally kind of regulates our nervous systems so we don't hold it inside our body. So practicing healthy boundaries, getting time for ourselves, self-care, and keeping ourselves calm when we can, and remembering that everyone's doing the very best they can for today. And that's absolutely enough for right now. So that's all I have for today.
Okay.
Any questions?
Well, that was pretty good for winging it. I'll say that.
I typed up stuff.
I wish I could wing my teaching like that.
He's the great speaker there.
Yeah, that's
Anyone
good
have any
information.
questions about anything? I kind of jumped around because it was winging. It wasn't as organized as I would have liked.
Perfect.
Question.
Oh, there's the math teacher. She's outside.
You're all unmuted.
Anybody have any questions that you?
I'll throw something out there.
Okay.
Because me, you were talking about boundaries, and I'm gonna try to do this without crying.
Yeah. No, you can cry. Remember, it's good.
Well, they know me. My people know me.
I've cried 3 times today. It's good.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
not want to rescue everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. My family, your families, my students.
I know.
Very hard.
Yeah. Especially right now.
Right.
Right. And that's because you're a good person and you have a lot of love in your heart and you're kind. And as a teacher, I can't imagine how hard this is for all of you to grieve that year just being over so fast. There was no closure.
Right.
There's no closure for any of this. And I think that's one of the hardest parts is that, especially as a teacher, you didn't have closure. We all just stopped one day and you just didn't even really get a goodbye. And you have such a big heart and you do want to fix and you want to save. And that's, I think that's okay to just embrace that part right now and understanding that you can't, but allowing yourself that space to not feel like there's anything wrong with that. Because physically we can't, but connecting. One thing that I have found that helps people who naturally kind of feel like that is to do like the good deeds stuff. So my mother-in-law is one of these people. She wants to save and fix everybody. She's got the biggest heart. And she's also obsessed with sewing. Like she makes She made me masks that match pajamas. Like I have shark pajamas and Wonder Woman pajamas and matching that. It's incredible. And I should have worn them. But she is making masks. She's one of the mask makers. And she is making like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But it's managing her need to fix. She feels a little bit of control because she's doing something to kind of, it's giving her a little bit of control. I'm doing something to help this crisis. I'm doing something to help people, to save people, to fix it. So whether it's donating, canned goods, whether it's, volunteering time, like to tutor, like you already do, know that you're doing that stuff. You're already doing it, and take it as you're giving time and you're giving back. So you are doing things to help people and save people. From personal experience, you reaching out to Sarah, to there, is huge. That's huge for her because she's not, so that's huge. It helps. These little things are good.
Okay.
So I encourage you to own that and take that as I am doing something.
Thanks.
Embrace it. I love it. For sure. Anyone else? No questions? Can't believe it. These people have so many questions. You can ask me anything. It doesn't have to be about boundaries. It can be about really anything. I'm a therapist. Like,
I think one of the biggest challenges is not knowing when it will end.
yeah.
I mean, I told after 9/11, and that was a major challenge. But be honest about it, within a week, you felt like you were at least somewhere back to normal.
Yeah.
Students and things like that, where we don't know when the normal is going to return.
Yeah, we
Welcome to the
don't.
new normal.
Yeah, this could be our new normal for a long time.
Yeah.
We don't know. And with 9/11, it's an interesting comparison because with 9/11, there were stages that we knew we could count on. We're going to clean up.
Right.
It's going to take, they didn't have exact amounts, but we knew there was going to be a cleanup. And when that's done, then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do that. There were literal things that people could tell us were going to happen. And with this, we're not getting, information's changing so fast. And we feel like we're not getting the right information. And we're learning new things. And we feel like we're not hearing what we need to hear sometimes, or even what we want to hear. And we don't have enough information because it's a virus. So we don't know. And now there's a second wave coming. Let's watch China. Is there a second wave? We don't know. It's like, it's complete unknown. And that's our loss of control. It's what we're all feeling. We don't have any control over this. And feeling like we don't have control, ways to feel like we have some control is where I encourage people, again, doing things that are positive, which you do already, and recognizing those things as, I'm taking control in a small way by doing this. Maybe you're taking control of, I have a client I'm going to take control of my health. So she is on a mission to eat healthier and, lose some weight, or, but that's her way of people who are feeling in control. Like my mother-in-law, she's making masks. Oh, my internet connection's unstable. That's not good. There are people who are, dropping supplies off, that are cooking meals for neighbors. I just told one of my clients who's a teenager, he's feeling the exact same thing you are. And I said, what would make you feel more in control? He said, I feel like I need to do something good. I said, well, what can you do? He said, I can make posters. Wow, great. Make some posters. Go stick them in front of your neighbor's house. Go do that. Cheer up some people. Do you think that would make you feel great? That makes me feel good. Do it. Do it. Like,
Yeah,
how about, that's good.
I'm actually creating a scholarship fund for a school I used to teach at, and I got applications back this week, and honestly, that was the most positive thing I've seen
But
in
you're
months.
doing it. That's
'Cause
amazing.
I'm reading through the applications and their essays, and we're going to award 2 scholarships. Once I can get to a bank and actually set the account.
That's
which has been a
incredible.
challenge, because I never thought I'd have to go through a pandemic, and setting this up.
It's a little harder.
Yes.
You have to wear a mask to a bank, which is,
Yes.
yeah. Congratulations. But did that make you feel more like you had some control over?
I think when I got the applications is what really changed things around. I mean, because it's very frustrating going through the process, but when you actually see the result of the students coming back and responding, and we're actually, I'm working with some other people, we're going to try, our goal was to give out 2 scholarships. I'd like to at least get, because these seniors got hit so hard, that we're going to try to give money to the other 2 or 3 people who applied.
It's amazing. Thank you. That's incredible. It's amazing. I love it. Those kind of things are the things that people are going to remember. Like that this happened during this. Those are the kind of things that I hope people remember and respond to. Like the whole, everyone's talking about it, I've been posting about it, but, looking for the helpers, remembering the good. And there's so much good happening right now. And we do tend to focus on the bad, because remember the news, what you see on the news, it's only going to be the bad. I actually will share that I used to be a television reporter. In my first life, I was a television reporter for many years and an anchor. And I can tell you if it bled, it led. We report the bad stuff because that's where we get our ratings. We don't report, we have the little bumper story that's like 2 minutes long at the end. We always end on a little happy thing so everybody will come back and watch the news again. But I promise, we always tell the bad news because that's where our ratings go. So they're not going to tell you the good stuff all the time that's happening. And that's kind of happening in the commercials, which is interesting. But the kind of good you're talking about and that Mrs. Neal's talking about, these are the good things that, I have a client who's starting a blog. If none of you have seen John Krasinski's Some Good News, if you've watched that, it's so good. Do you see? Yeah, I love it. It's so happy and fun. That's the kind of stuff we need more of. I should do something like that. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody having any issues with teenagers or kids? Yes. Me too. Yeah, me too. What's going on, Mr. Corwin?
He's on mute. There he goes.
You even get your kid to get up in the morning, honestly. But then you said when you can get them to talk and just hearing what they're going through, it's rough. And so then you throw the online and the impossibilities of that on top. It's like, yeah. And then the stress I'm sure we're all going through with, working from home and then having the time for your kids. It can, a lot of different directions depending on what day it is, like you said. So, this was so good. Thank you.
I'm glad.
I'm gonna listen to it again tomorrow. I needed this.
Thanks. I think for you and Carrie, look, you guys, first of all, I don't know how people with little kids, bless you. People with little children, I don't know how you are possibly, I can't imagine.
We fight for devices. Like, I mean, we don't have enough computers for our kids to even do the online work.
Yeah, so don't worry about it.
It's like, yeah, well, and then
No, don't. I mean it. Like, really don't.
that, Carrie?
No, like, you can't.
That's the fight that we have then, is I'm like, just don't worry about it. And
Yeah, don't.
Oh, but we got to get it done.
No, your kids are never, there was an incredible, I did a post the other day. There was an incredible thing that said, dear parents, and it said, your kids are never, like, we will pick this back up in the fall or whenever we get back to school. Your kids are never going to remember anything about this experience. They're never going to learn. They are not programmed to learn in a pandemic.
Right. And I've got 4 different kinds of kids. I mean, I've got one kid that doesn't want to get up, will just check out, not do any work, is in denial. I've got one kid that to keep their attention at all is impossible, to get them to do anything. Even when you have them in front, you have to sit there the whole time with them. I've got one kid who is full of anxiety because he's not doing it perfect. And then,
Right.
I mean, I've got them all.
I know. Yeah, I have 2 of those. And it's so, you know, it's so tough to find the balance, and how do you discipline, and what's okay and what's not. And I think that for now, being just, you know, it's okay to sit down with your kids and say, hey, guess what? Family game night. No homework today. Let's all go for a walk. Let's all walk the dog. Let's all draw a picture. Let's all lie down on a blanket and find shapes in the clouds. And I think those are the kind of things that kids are going to remember. And that's the kind of stuff, it is so much more important than if they get their paper done, or if they, you know, I was stressing so much about my own daughter, about Bear being, you know, getting all this work done, and the grades are coming out, she's getting this. And I just had to stop and say, I'm actually stressing myself out more and ruining my, you know, this is affecting the entire family. She's unhappy, I'm unhappy, I'm stressed out, she's stressed out, we're all miserable.
Right.
And what is she missing out on? Isn't it more fun for us to sit down and say, hey, Mr. Pooh recommended we watch some Twilight Zones. That's so cool. Did you like that? She loved it. Let's watch some more and let's talk about them. And maybe I can find, well, guess what? Some of them had some historical references, Mr. Bowman. So, by the way, this is about World War II. You want to talk about World War II? Let's talk about it. Look, this represents, just finding different things.
Right.
Whatever goes.
Right.
You don't have to, there's no rules anymore. You can't. You'll make yourself crazy. Everything's.
That's the one thing too, with all the parents that are on here from Trinity. I mean, if your kids are behind, we're okay with it. My worst fear or concern would be if they are behind, then they're not engaging because they're trying to avoid, or they feel bad that they're behind. I'm telling all the kids and all the parents, just engage. Like, get on the Zooms, or you know, do the social Zooms, even if you're not doing your work, just so you're not isolating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want them to feel bad.
Yeah.
Not doing the work, so then they feel like they can't get on. Like, I'd rather them just get on to connect with their friends and connect with their teachers. I mean, see each other. I think that's important.
So important. You're right. That's the most important
thing. A lot of them have felt like maybe if they did get behind or are missing something, then they don't want to get on the Zooms, or, you know, and I don't want that. So.
No. And I think you're doing a good job of communicating that. And I think that, again, as a teacher, as a principal, you're doing the best you can. And that's all you can do. And again, allowing yourself to say, I'm doing the best I can at running a school during a pandemic when kids aren't even in the buildings. And who knows what's going on in their home right now, because you guys don't get to talk to them every day. You don't get to see them every day, and you don't know. Which is part of the anxiety for you, I'm sure, not knowing, you know, if you don't see a kid for a while, like I'm sure you haven't seen Bear for a while, I'm sure you're going, where is she? Is she okay? What's going on? And I know that. And, you know, it's tough. Yeah, I know.
I was here today, and I mean, to be honest with you guys, I cried there. I mean, it's in the building. It sucks.
It sucks.
To be there, no one's there, and you go through all the different emotions of anger and denial, and yeah, it sucks.
It does. It absolutely does. And that's the only thing that's good about this is I think that everybody is in the same boat. And knowing that we are all, and I mean everybody, it's everybody. I mean, I talk to so many people. I mean, I have priests, I have rabbis, I have doctors, I have lawyers, I have professional athletes. I have a million different types of clients. And they're all like talking to me, bawling their eyes out for the exact same reasons that we're talking about. They're all grieving. Loss. This is loss. It's frustration. It's anger. It's confusion. And it's all completely valid. And this is our new normal for right now. And like Mr. Pittman said, and we don't know when it's ending, which is so hard. It's so hard. And just know you're not alone. And I've said any teacher who needs to just like decompress, call me. I'm here. If you need just a little pep talk, whatever, you need to just check in, let me know. I'm here. Like anybody, I'm making myself available because people need it. So it's important. Are there any teenagers on? I don't see anybody. Oh, no, because Mr. Pooh, are you so sad about the play?
I am so sad about the play. I'm gonna tell you, on Sunday, actually, I was taking my daughter to her mom's place, and we stopped at the school, Mr. Corwin, and I went in and I was literally running my hand on the set pieces that were, and I had my daughter pull it forward because I'm like, well, if we were doing it, I actually would rather have it. And I was devastated. And I have to tell you, when you just said that everyone, absolutely everyone, is bawling and mourning this, grieving over this, I think for the first time in the past month, I actually felt really good, because when you said that, it was so inclusive. Everyone that I felt,
everybody.
You know what? It's okay.
It's
okay that I was there. And my daughter was like, why are we standing here? And I was like, just be quiet. Let me just look over here. And of course, I took her to the prop room to have her fix it. And she looked at me. I looked at her and said, let's get out of here. But yeah, but it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't tell me. I still don't know how Mousetrap ends.
No,
I'm not, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I
don't want to know. I'm waiting.
I'm keeping the secret.
It is a secret. And I'm holding that because I know eventually it will happen. I am holding that.
Exactly.
I will not let anybody tell me. But that's the kind of,
year after next, for all you know.
Yeah. We're devastated. Of course, everybody's devastated. And it's one of the things we're mourning. And the poor seniors and everybody, it's devastating. It is an absolute, the entire world. That's the other thing. It's not, we're not feeling this on a city or a school or a country, or we're feeling this on a world level. This is the first kind of thing we've ever experienced in a long time. I mean, I think 9/11 was something we experienced as a country. But I think in my lifetime, this is the first experience I've had as a global experience that I can think of. There hasn't been a world war really in my life, I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't remember. Maybe I was young and I don't know. for me as a grown-up, this is the first thing I've ever experienced as a worldwide grieving process. And it's profound. It's something that my kids will tell their children about. It's historic. It's horrific. You know, I'm angry about it. I'm a therapist and I cry trust me, I'm going through exactly what you guys are. And I'm the one who's supposed to know how to, you know, I'm supposed to give presentations on how to deal with this. Like I'm supposed to be I'm an essential worker who's supposed to know. No one trained me in graduate school on how do you coach people through a pandemic? We didn't get that class. I never got that.
What do you tell people? You know, you're so, at least I'm so used to looking to a date in the future, being hopeful about something. And, you know, when you've had big things canceled and canceled and canceled, and it's just hard to be hopeful. Like you can't pin any, oh, we'll definitely be back, you know, by this date. And then that date comes and, you know, they might shut us all down for another month as of the end of April. And, you know, we just got a reservation canceled for the second time to go to the beach. And my daughter's wedding was canceled and it's rescheduled for August. And we don't know if that's going to happen. And it's just like, what do you start hoping?
I'm so sorry. That's terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry. I mean, this is where, I mean, at least for me and for what seems to be working really well is this is that one day at a time thing, which is awful. And none of us, and look, again, when are we going to do the play? When am I going to find out how Mousetrap ends? When am I going to get to see my kids get?
Yeah. When are you going to get to see your kids
like
again?
Mr. Redmond said, we don't know. And it is awful. And not knowing and not having that hope. But what I do know is that eventually it's gonna happen eventually, right? Eventually it'll happen. And what I tell clients in recovery is eventually, if, you know, like for people that I treat a lot of infidelity in marriages, it's part of my job. And if somebody is doing the work and their partner's really doing the work and really in recovery doing really well, I am able to tell their partner, this is going to take time, but eventually this trust will grow. You can have hope. You can have hope because he is doing what he needs to do. And I believe that the scientists and the people who, the doctors and the nurses and the people that are out there, you know, keeping us safe, I believe they're doing what they need to do as fast as possible. You know, the fact that there are factories that used to make tires and they shut down to make ventilators is incredible. And these moments where we see these things happen, that I have a lot of friends and I know a lot of people who are in the healthcare industry, and that they are saying, I will take another shift. Yes, I'm going to stay with this patient. I will not, you know, this patient isn't doing well, they might not make it, but I'm not going home because they trust me and they don't have their loved ones. People who do things like that give me hope. They have hope.
I know.
And taking those kind of experiences and understanding that eventually it's going to stop eventually. We're going to eventually have a vaccine because the smartest, brightest, most incredible people have stopped every kind of research to work on this. This is all anyone's doing right now. No one's working on anyone else. They've stopped. The brightest scientists in the world are working on this. And I know some of them. Like, it's incredible. I actually, like, some of the people who are working in the labs is all they're doing. That gives me hope. And they're good at it. And they have hope, and that gives me hope. So eventually you're going to see your kids get married. It may not be this year. It may, I don't know. I don't know. It may not, but oh my gosh, it'll happen, right? It'll happen. And you can hold on to that. I think it's a beautiful thing to hold on to. Don't give up. I mean, they might want to stop rescheduling. Maybe stop trying to push it and push it and push it, because you may be setting yourself up for another disappointment. It may be better just to say, hey, let's just wait. Let's just wait. We can do this. Let's wait till things calm down. Let's wait till we have the information. Let's just get through today or this week, or let's just get through this month. And that might be a better way, instead of continuously trying to set yourself, it's almost like setting yourself up for a disappointment. It would be so much better for it to be like, what if we're done in October, and then they could go, now we can really set it up and really do it, right? That would be so much better. It might be a year from now, but oh my gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? It'll happen. Mr. P, I will find out how Mousetrap ends. I know.
Exactly.
I do. I know I will. And the only way I'm going to do it is through this, is watching his play. I'm not going to see it any other way. I know it's going to happen. I don't know when, but that's the hope, right? We're going to go back to school.
Yep.
We are one day.
Yep. There's one thing I think, probably maybe more important than anything, and I'd say good half of the people here are very concerned, but what the heck are we going to do without fantasy football this year?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I think football will happen. I don't know. I don't think anyone's going to be going to games.
You knew that was coming, right, Mr. Corwin?
Oh, do you guys know about what, this is so hopeful. Do you hear what Major League Baseball did about testing the vaccine?
Yes.
Is that not incredible?
What? I didn't hear
About
that.
10,000
I didn't
people.
hear it either.
So they need a cross-section to test the vaccine. They need cross-sections of people from every race, demographic, gender. And Major League Baseball was like, oh, we have that. Test us. So everybody who's employed by the MLB, like whether you work in concessions or you're a groundskeeper or you're a player or a coach, whatever, they all volunteered.
Wow.
That's hope. That an
That's
organization that big and that you know, that's hopeful. That's powerful. I mean, that's how much they believe in giving of themselves to us. That's this, people do good, the good deeds and the good that's coming out of this. And look, I'm not Pollyanna. Believe me, Jill, I'm telling you, I'm not Pollyanna. Look, I have days where I've had days where I've crawled in a ball and gone, this is the worst. Trust me. Like I said, no one tells you in graduate school that you're going to have to help people through a pandemic. Doesn't happen.
Well, I thought what you said about bouncing through emotions was really good, because I find some days I'm hopeful, other days, you know, I'm mad, you know, other days I'm sad, or I bounce in between them all in the span of one day. And you just think, is this normal? And it's nice to know that everybody's kind of going through that same thing.
It's that entire, I'll print out my, I'll type up my little thing about trauma and what we're doing and why our brains are the chemical dump. And that's literally what your brain's going through. We're like the seven dwarfs. And I've had people come to me and want to start therapy because they actually think they have a personality disorder through that. So something's really wrong with me. I'm like mad all of a sudden. I think I'm bipolar. I think I'm like, no, you're not. You're fine. You're not. You're fine. You're traumatized. This is a global trauma. And what everybody's starting to talk about is what happens, you know, when this is over. The mental health field is like we're the ones that have to take over. And I'm going, oh my God, we're terrified. I mean, I'm not. I do EMDR and trauma, so I'm good. But there are a lot of people who are going, this is a big deal because this is a global trauma. How do we help? I mean, the kids at home are all of a sudden having to spend 24/7 with their parents. What is that doing to them?
Yeah, or hold up in their room for 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day.
I would be too. I mean, wouldn't you be if you were a teenager?
Yes.
Sarah,
that's a really good point. That's a really good point. I would be upstairs in my room listening to music all day. I wouldn't want to be with my parents if I was a teenager.
I think the other thing too is like a hurricane or natural disaster, you might be able to flee from that and go somewhere safe. Like you said, this is a worldwide event. There is no safe zone to go to.
No, we can't go to Europe. We can't go to Canada. We don't flee.
Because my daughter was supposed to go to Aruba for a vacation during spring break. And the concern was, I may not be able to get back into the country, so they canceled it.
Right.
And, but she's looking back at these pictures, like, this was what it could have been like. I could be on a beach right now.
Mourning.
Yeah.
That's grief. That's mourning. What could have been. It's like going to college, like it's graduation, it's prom. Look what could have been. My daughter's sending me pictures of prom dresses. Yeah, honey, we could have, my senior, I'm like, yeah, sweetie, we can buy you a prom dress. I'll buy you a prom dress. I have no problem. You're not going to go to prom, but maybe it'll happen. There's the denial. Maybe we'll still have prom. I love you, honey. You're not having prom. We got to get in reality. We got to stay. We have to. There's not going to be prom this year. I love you. What we can do whenever this is over, we'll have all your friends have a huge party somewhere. Everybody get dressed up and do prom. We'll do, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll do something. We'll have a huge graduation party. We'll do something. I had to cancel a trip with her. We had this huge graduation trip planned. I was going to take her to Europe. That's out. It's okay. It's not like Europe's not going anywhere. I mourned it. It was devastating. But I'm trying to look, and I thought I was going to be real positive about it and say, but look at all this time I'm getting with my senior at home that I would never get. It's awful. Like, I love her, but she doesn't want to spend time with me. She wants to be with her friends, and she wants to be out doing things, and she doesn't want to spend time with her mom and, play board games and do puzzles and me trying to be creative. That's not what teenagers want to do.
No.
And I'm lucky because I have really good kids that aren't trying to sneak out and go see their friends, right? They're good. And
I'm feeling bad for the people who have young children at home, but I really miss my two who can't really come home because my husband's immune compromised, and it's so I miss my children a lot. And then I know that if they were here, they'd be driving me crazy, because they'd be stuck in the house and just as bored. No matter what your circumstances, it's kind of like you're struggling with wanting something else.
And no matter how creative you are, this is why I discourage the whole looking at other people's like social media feeds and this whole like, oh, look how good they have it and look at all their creative stuff. Like, remember, people only put the best things, right, on social media. No one's going to put their worst day where they're like haven't showered in 3 days and they're wearing the same clothes and they're curled up in a ball and they're like, I brushed my hair for this. Like, no one's gonna, like, I put on makeup. I don't look like this every day, right? This is a special treat for you guys, honestly.
No one's gonna post a video of their
elastic. I didn't wear pants with a zipper, but I'm not going that far. But this is a this is reality. People aren't going to be putting online that they, people aren't
wake up their teenager and Yeah.
My teenager, I have no idea where she just sneaked out, and I haven't seen her in 2 days, and she's at her friend's house, and we're in a lockdown and during a pandemic. She's, you know, probably at her boyfriend's, and this is what's happening.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Right? That's the stuff that's really happening. But people are going to post that, look at our family and how great we are. We just did our 9th puzzle, and we're having, you know, homemade lasagna for dinner and the great bottle of wine. And afterwards, my husband and I are going to go for a walk in the sunset. Shut up. I don't like that.
Right.
That's not my life.
No.
My life is eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's on the back porch in my pajamas and that's a good night.
After I screamed at my kids.
Yeah.
What did you say, Mr. Corwin?
I said after I screamed at my kids.
Yeah. We want you to post a video of trying to wake up Jacob for 20 minutes and having him scream at you.
We had the Zoom with all the kids, and he wasn't on there, and all the kids were asking Carrie and I, "Where's Jacob?"
Yeah, how many has Bear made?
Yeah.
Michelle,
I really, really appreciate you coming on and doing this and being real and just sharing your heart in a genuine, honest way. You can wing any community talk we ever had. It was awesome. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to wrap it up now. It's always awkward, I think, to get off the Zoom because it takes so long to click so many buttons. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you.
it's so good to see you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Miss you all so much.
Thank you. This was awesome. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.